I should do that.
Oh.
Action.
You worked for Roger for too long.
I know. Do you remember when Nancy got? Did you know Marina, the Filipina? Yeah. Nancy got her to go to the studio once, and they dressed in these bird costumes, and they had to dance around. But they were like for 12 hours or something waiting to dance around in these bird costumes. She came back to work on Monday. She was like, "I'm gonna kill her." It was too funny. But anyway, maybe you could introduce yourself and say your name and where you were born and that kind of stuff. Just.
My name is Ruth Sullivan, and this is my wife, Claudia. And we've been together, Claudia?
17 years next month. Married for 3.
She picked me up at a bar.
I was going to ask you. I did not know how you met. If I did, I couldn't remember.
I would try to think of a romantic lie so I could tell people a good story, but
The fact of it is I picked her up in a bar.
Yeah.
What bar?
Regretted it ever
The Connection.
since.
Oh.
The old Connection, no longer here.
Yeah.
A lot of things no longer here. And I'm from Baton Rouge. Claudia's a Bay Area chick.
I was born in Berkeley and stayed in the Bay Area until my junior year in college. I went to college in Oregon, and then I discovered women and softball. And that was the end of college for a while. Then it took me another 20 years to get my degree. So, but
What did you get?
women in softball was definitely worth it.
What did you get your degree in?
English literature.
Oh.
Nice, useful degree.
I knew you loved to read. I just didn't.
Yeah. And the fact of the matter is that after working at the police department for almost 20 years, an opening came up in the city attorney's office. And one of the criteria that they used to separate the wheat from the chaff was you had to have a degree. And they'd all known me for so long because the city attorney's office works with the police department quite regularly. And so they didn't really care that my degree was in English literature because they knew I had a lot of experience. So the last 4.5, 5 years of my working life were just a lot of fun.
Oh, I was going to ask about your wedding and your proposal. I think that's it.
I guess I could start off by saying that I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer day before Christmas, 08?
07.
07. So this is 11. Not too shabby. The numbers are real bad for ovarian cancer today. I did chemo a number of times, and it seems to have worked for a while, but right now I am more or less on the decline on my disease, and the fight is almost at the end, I guess. So I'm in hospice, and we're just trying to be comfortable and enjoy the love affair we've had. I've been in and out of the hospital for
3.5 years.
3.5 years. I've had probably 20 different operations, and during one of these times, things were not going well for me.
During one of these times, one of the surgeries, they nicked a bowel. And so she developed an infection, but in terms of chemotherapy and side effects, Ruth invented things they'd never heard of before. And nick bowel ended up abscessing, and her body, of course, just walled it off, and then so she had a kind of a systemic infection. But Ruth does not spike a fever, and her blood counts were screwed up anyway from the chemo. So nobody really knew what was going on, except that she started to decline mentally. She was sitting around babbling, repeating herself, could barely write her name. And so the neurologist on Friday afternoon, after it was continuing to decline, excuse me, said, I don't know what's going on, but we're going to put her in ICU now, before the weekend, because I don't know what's going on. We'll turn it over to them, and at least we'll keep her alive that way. So they put her in ICU, and the two women doctors in the ICU said, we're going to start all over again. So they started, they did a CAT scan of her abdomen and found this abscess. And as soon as they started to drain the abscess, she started to get her brain back. But she was pretty sick. So during that time, she was out for probably about 48 hours.
So more or less in a coma.
More or less in a coma, yeah. And so during that weekend, or a couple of days before, or that weekend, I guess, was when the court decided that we could get married. And so when she came out of the coma, I asked her to marry me. And she's like, we can't get married. I go, yeah, we can. And she's like, oh, goody. So we were going to get married. So we got married. Ruth was bald and in a wheelchair, and we got married in West Hollywood Park.
June 21st.
June 21st. Yeah.
There was a day that they did
Yeah.
the big amount of weddings.
Yeah, they did a lot of weddings. They had all these cute little white cabanas all set up all around the park, and they were very cute. And the city of West Hollywood deputized people to perform the ceremonies and stuff, and it was fun. I think when we got married, there were only a few others going on in the park at the time.
It was hot.
And it was hot. We just invited a few friends, and my cousin got married.
Oh, I was gonna ask Ruth something that I remembered. When Ruth and I worked together, and I had a extra room in my house, and so she rented the room. And she's from Louisiana, as you know.
I was poor, working for Roger Corman, who's like the king of B movies. He doesn't pay enough to rent a closet. And so Marsha really came through for me and helped me be able to stay in California.
Well, I remember when Ruth first came, she was always worried about earthquakes. She came from Louisiana worried about California earthquakes. So what happened while she was living there? The Northridge quake.
You were living there when and did you lose your chimney?
Yes. Well, part of it. We had to actually, I called it the 100 brick toss. Went up on the roof with Cindy Krogan, my contractor friend, and she dismantled it, and I threw the bricks off the roof. But when the quake happened, personally, I did not get out of bed, but Ruth was yelling, "Get on the floor! Get on the floor!"
I thought the ceiling was coming down.
Well, it seemed like it. And personally, I covered my head with the blanket and said, "I'm not coming out."
I had 3 German shepherds trying to dig their way through the mattress to get under the bed.
Oh my. It wasn't, but Ruth and her girlfriend at the time went out in the neighborhood and went to all the neighbors' doors to make sure that everybody was okay.
What a good woman.
Yes,
She's a good
she
lady.
is a good one. But one thing I wanted to ask you about, this is what I remember. You telling me when you used to do something in the Mardi Gras parade with friends, where you would do these funny things. Was it the Mardi Gras? It was some parade there in,
Oh, it was,
Yeah.
it was a Mardi Gras parade in Spanish Town, which is a subdivision of Baton Rouge, kind of near the downtown area. And it was known as the gay area to live in at the time. And they had this parade, kind of like, I guess, the Doodah parade here. And it had a theme about Elvis. Period. That was the theme. The first year was called Miranda. And what happened? People would get their lawnmowers and have lawnmower drill teams and push broken or empty lawnmowers around and have little drills. Dress up as Carmen Miranda. And then the other one has to do with Grace Lawn, and
But it was always the lawnmower drill team.
they were the highlight of the parade. They had some float, but it's always
the lawnmowers were the bomb.
Sort of like now they have the library. The librarians have the library card drill team.
yeah.
And they have competitions. Yeah. One of the women in Santa Monica actually has, a member of Santa Monica library card drill team as part of her signature on her email.
One of the things I'm happy that I got to do was lead the LA parade one year, like on bikes.
Oh yeah.
Me and Claudia both had motorcycles, and it was like the time to do it. So again, hot in the summer, what do you expect? But being on those bikes, it was brutal, and it was a blast. We had if you're gay, lesbian, on a bike, that's one of your top
Motorcycle gang.
the top 10 things to do.
You're fun.
Is there anything else that comes to mind you wanna?
Golly. Ruth and I are celebrating, a 17-year love affair, and in that respect, we've been really lucky. So this winding down of disease is kind of a slow and dramatic process. But we're still not in. We're in pretty good shape for the shape we're in. We're plugging along. Ruth gets up still. Still wouldn't have it any other way.
Still able to walk and stuff. So the lucky part is after I met her, I knew that was me.
Yep.
And the worst thing about being a lesbian is that if you get one bling, you have to get another one.
I don't have mine on because I don't play golf today, man. It's true. You got to can't buy one ring. You got to get two.
Yeah. So you have a few other little members of your family here. I don't know if I can, maybe I can turn this thing and see if, yeah, pick up.
Come here, Peabody.
I'm going to try and come a little closer here and see.
This is Ernest Peabody.
There we go.
He a little squirmy. Which
How
is funny
unusual.
because-
Last time I saw him, he-
because he rarely moves when he's sleeping. I mean, he sleeps all day and he just doesn't. So.
Yes, I actually brought over some kelp powder for Peabody.
He's gonna be a lucky dog.
Because I thought he might need a little thyroid support there.
Yeah.
Last time I was here, he didn't move at all.
Yeah, he's,
Well, he's downright wild
every
today.
year we take him to the vet, spend a lot of money on blood work, have him fast and do all this stuff, and
It's the same.
it's the same every year.
He's
so
just lazy. Huh?
Well, that could be. That could be that when, and we got him off of the streets, so it could be that, you know, he put in his time of being active while he was outdoors,
Mhm.
and doesn't have a felt need to continue with that.
And we won't even try and pick up this one.
Oh, I'd pick her up, but she's, you know, she would yowl, she would scold me.
Yes.
So.
Let's see if I can. I don't know how to use this thing, of course, so. Oh, we'll see what. I'll just pick it up.
I could get her
That's-
a rubber band and put her in action.
That's a button. And she was very curious about the bag
you might wanna
for
go
the
up there and
tripod.
take a picture
Yeah,
of
can we
Yeah.
get that? Maybe you can
Yeah.
bring it over. And I also want to get your wedding
Want to
certificate.
get
Like
it off the wall?
I'll
Is
get
that
it.
what
No, I mean, it's on the left as you go through to our bedroom.
this is Ruth and Claudia's wedding picture. Let's see if we can get a good shot of it here. There.
You got it.
There, we got you all in, I think. Yeah.
Very simple. We wore white shirts and had leis and khaki shorts because it was so hot. And then we went out. We got married and we went out to dinner. That was a whole big deal. You know? It was very inexpensive. Marietta's mom.
Cool. Wow. Let's see if I can adjust this a little. There
And
we
the city
go.
of
Oh.
West Hollywood made these really cool.
See if I can. I'm gonna try and get right up on it. Let's see if we can see your names maybe. It says West Hollywood marriage certificate. This certifies that Ruth Sullivan and Claudia Brick were lawfully wedded on the 21st day of June 2008 in the city of West Hollywood under the laws of the state of California.
Woohoo!
Phew! Yeehaw!
Which leaves us still married.
Yeah, so far.
Actually, we put the.
Oops, let me get you both back in there. You moved on me, Claudia.
I'm sorry. Yes, I did. I moved on.
When we put in for taxes, of course, we file separately for the federal, but state sent us a check with one check with both of our names on it. And I've never thought I'd see that in my lifetime.
Never thought I'd see the day.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I'm floored still.
Yeah, I'm floored that we've reached the level of acceptability even that we are, considering the dark ages from which we've come.
And just as a side note, that was not Peabody barking.
That's a neighbor dog. Enough mouth for everybody. Yeah.
Just don't expect Peabody to bark.
He barked once.
Did he? Once since
He
you had
was
him?
mad at me because I didn't give him a cookie in time or something, you know. Something important.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing.
Well, you're
Okay.
welcome. I appreciate your willingness to maintain the archives and to add to it with things like this. This I wouldn't have expected either, you see. It's a wonderful thing.
Do you usually edit these?
I have no idea. I'm a a novice.
Practice.
I guess there's probably a way. I personally have no clue.
Well, you just
But-
download them and leave them be. And then,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of, it is, it's real.
Because I
Yeah.
might ask you to come back and let's do it again.
Yeah, we can do that.
You know, we can have it on this and get a little bit more.
We could go all the way back to the Lavender Menace 35 years ago when Marietta and I played softball in Portland on a team called the Lavender Menace. And you had to be a lesbian to be on that team. Only everybody on the other teams, even though they were also lesbians, they weren't out. And so we made everybody really nervous.
I bet. Hey, now wait. Is that the team you were on when you made, what's it called when you do something? You have a ball from it, right?
I don't have a ball from that. I have a ball. Had a ball from Joan Joyce, who was, and another one from Chris Mazuka. Maybe I didn't have a ball from Chris. Maybe I just have her.
But
with silver
didn't
plate.
you do something kind of spectacular in softball?
Yes.
Yeah.
She first of all, she not only did she bat a perfect 300, she played outfield a perfect.
Well, I had a couple of really good games.
Well, and anyway, the score was 1,000.
When that tournament of champions game, my fielding was 1,000%.
That's right.
And
That's what I'm talking about.
my first All-Star on the 4th of July tournament in Portland, I batted like 670.
Well, even I know that's good.
You know, when she was in
And
high
Marietta kicked my ass.
when she was in high school, there were no women's sports. There were men's soccer, and Claudia started
I was
playing
in
that.
college.
Well, they had no women's sports in college.
Not
And
at Reed.
so, Claudia started playing soccer, and she played with the boys, and actually has we could get out that newspaper ad showing that.
Do you know where that is?
It's on top somewhere.
Hmm.
And
Because one of my girlfriend's mothers got crazy one time and burned up a bunch of stuff in my house.
it's-
Cut. You want me to cut it?
Sick.